couple of the girls that were close friends of mine, of course, like they were staying the night.
Yeah.
They were helping clean up. And I'm panicking. I called Jessica, your sister.
My sister, yeah.
And I'm like, oh, I effed up. I'm Cassandra.
And I'm Shawn.
And this is the Call Your Dad podcast. All right, guys, welcome back to Call Your Dad podcast. We're so excited to dig into some holiday and vacation stories today. I know that when you think of vacation and you see all the pictures on Facebook and Instagram and social media, everything looks picture perfect and it's like something out of a movie. However, I think we all know that it really is more like, Chevy Chase's Christmas Vacation, where it's chaos and there's fighting and there's just disasters happening.
I'm never going to come on vacation with you all again.
Literally. So anyways, we thought that would be a fun topic to just kind of reminisce on some not so great times, but they are forever, in our brain because they were such great memories. So why don't you start us off? Let's talk about some vacation stories.
Okay. So in the interest of full disclosure, to a fault, I could not help myself but always approach vacations with the same sort of mentality that I would have at work. Like there's going to be an agenda, a schedule, an itinerary. And now I will say that well-structured time is important if, in the middle of your working career, if you're going to be away for 7 days, it's important to make good use of that. Right?
Yeah.
Like you want that to be structured. However, the goal is not to complete an itinerary. The goal is to have fun. And that's where I would sometimes mess it up.
Yeah.
Like, all right, kids, I know that you all are frolicking and laughing in the pool at the hotel. Get out because we've got to go to the next event.
We've got to be here.
Check things off the list. So, I think about like when we moved to DC, when you were going into your sophomore year of high school, to the DC area. Well, I love monuments and memorials and museums and history in general and American history especially. So I thought this is great. We're in that I-95 corridor. So, you've got DC, Baltimore, Philly, New York, Boston. We're going to do so much historical stuff. And so on the front end, I would always drag you along.
Yeah.
Alexander, who at the time was 9, he loved it. He thought it was great.
Yeah.
But I remember one particular day, it was Sunday, a pleasant afternoon, and the National Mall in DC, the National Mall, is the long strip between the Capitol and the Washington Monument that's on both sides, adorned with all the Smithsonian's. The White House is right off of Pennsylvania Avenue. So I say, hey, let's go to the National Mall. And Alexander said, great. Mom said, great. And you were like, oh, okay. And I thought, wow, you and I have really reached a new chapter in this relationship. She's finally developing an affinity, for our nation's, rich cultural history. So we fight I-95 traffic, we fight for a parking spot, we're walking around, and then at some point you look and you say, where's the mall? I'm like, uh-oh.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, suddenly the conversation we had back in the kitchen makes a lot more sense. Like, Now, because I was the parent, I instantly felt pretty guilty, thinking, come on, Shawn, in what world would she have wanted to have gone and done this? Then I thought, wait a minute. She's 15 years old. She knows me well enough. I'll turn it around. In what universe would she think that I would want to go shopping on my day off, right? So it was a classic case of two people looking at the exact same thing and just talking
totally different
past each other.
Thoughts.
Because, my idea of a vacation was going to Constitutional Hall in Philadelphia. My idea of sightseeing was taking pictures of the Liberty Bell. My idea of New York City was going to Grant's Tomb and taking a tour of the UN. You're thinking, oh, no, there's a Nike store and we're going to go to the M&M shop, right?
Yeah.
So I remember when I said, hey, you guys want to go to New York City for the Christmas break? And your quote verbatim was, okay, but you have to promise me we're not going to learn anything while we're there.
I remember that because I was I felt like and I will say, again, different stage of life now.
Yeah.
Looking back, I'm like, oh, hell yeah, that was awesome. But at the time when I was 16, 15, and we were moving all over, and I feel like those few years we moved a
It
lot.
was
So
pretty
we did
busy.
like DC, we lived in Germany.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
I don't even remember, but I just remember
Yeah.
we went so many different places. So of
Yeah.
course, as an adult now, I would want to do those same things, but maybe not to the extreme level that
Yeah.
you dig into them. But
Yeah.
yeah, back then it was just like, oh my gosh, like another museum,
Yeah.
another
Yeah.
historical
Yeah.
site, another. Now I will say I loved when Jessica, so Jessica's my aunt, your sister, Jessica, when she would come visit and do these tours with us and the
Yeah.
sightseeing. I loved when she came because she was very like, all right, let's see it and then let's go.
Yeah.
Like let's see it and go. Like just a
Yeah.
quick, like I think it's like when we went to Israel and she came with us and it was like, all right, like, all right, we see it. Cool. All right, let's move on to the next thing. And it was just like, go,
Yeah.
go, go. When
Yeah.
versus you know, you like to really take your time and
I'm gonna
you
stop.
like
I'm
to
gonna
read the
read
plaque, every
everything.
single plaque you're reading.
Or like the morning of, like I'll get up early and I'll read either, like in that case, like you talked about Israel, like I will read specific sections, especially of the Old Testament, but even, there's plenty of New Testament entry that is germane to, Israel,
Where we
right?
are.
But I'd be up early, like reading that or like, watching a YouTube documentary the night before. And that was me. Like,
But yeah,
but
that's
it
you.
wasn't, it's not you guys.
No.
And so that was definitely to some degree like mistakes I made when I would organize vacations. I should have been much more conscientious of,
That you
okay,
were taking a 15-year-old girl somewhere.
yeah,
Like,
yeah. There's only so much I can tell her about, the architectural engineering, of the Louvre. Like you're like, okay, I've seen the Mona Lisa.
let's go.
All right, well,
Yeah.
let's go.
Again, that was then as a teenage
Yeah.
girl. But now,
Yeah.
obviously, I do appreciate the times that you did make us actually learn something.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm going to force you, to grow.
Don't make me
right.
learn.
So now for people listening, it would be unfair for me to leave out the fact that when I was 15,
Yeah, you didn't
I would
wanna learn.
have been worse.
Right.
You at least would humor me and you wouldn't be actively antagonistic. You might have your hands folded.
I'd
You
be
might-
like hands folded, but like still listening.
Yeah. Whereas I would have just thrown a fit. I would have wanted nothing to do with any
With
of
what
that
was
stuff. Right.
happening.
So I don't want people to think that I was born this way. Like these are just things like
Yeah.
I developed, over time. But, when I think about not vacations, but holidays, I love the way you set it up. We typically have this, hopefully like Hallmark, Rockwell, romantic ideal of what a holiday,
Yeah,
a family holiday can be.
Everything's so perfect.
But in reality, it ends up, with somebody like standing outside, chain smoking, about ready to have a nervous breakdown.
People were like cussing each other out,
Yeah.
yelling at
Yeah.
yelling at one another.
Yeah, because again, just different
"We're gonna have fun."
perspectives. Yeah, you all are going to love each other, come hell or high water. So when I was a kid, the adults handled all of that, right?
Mhm.
They did all the cooking, they bought all the presents, they made all the preparation. So when I joined the Air Force at 17, the first couple of years in, I spent Christmas or Thanksgiving away. So the first year, I just ate Thanksgiving dinner at the Chow Hall with all the other, single 18-year-old dudes, in my organization. Well, the following year, my friend and I decide we have a stove in our dormitory. Let's cook a turkey.
Mhm.
Now, if anybody's wondering, the answer is no. I had never cooked a turkey before, right? So a week prior to the big day, he and I go to the commissary, like that's the grocery store on base, and we buy a frozen turkey. And I noticed like on the front label, you peel it open and there's all these instructions on how to do it. I mean, I didn't read them, but like
I was
I
like,
knew,
did you like peel it and throw it away?
yeah, no, I kept it on there because I knew I would need them
Eventually.
when I needed to cook, but I didn't read them. I didn't even glance at them. So he and I decide, all right, well, we want to eat this thing at 5 o'clock on Thanksgiving, so we got to start early. Let's meet in the break room where the freezer was, where the turkey was being stored, and where the stove was, no later than 4 p.m. to get started, right? Because we've got it in our mind, like, well, let's see, if it takes 2 minutes to heat up a Hot Pocket and it takes 17 minutes to cook a frozen pizza, it's got to take at least 45 minutes to completely cook this turkey, right? So we pull this thing out and it's knock, knock, knock. It's hard as a rock. And we get about all of 90 seconds into this and realize, well, this isn't going to work at all. So I just grabbed this thing, carried it out to the parking lot like a football, chuck it into the dumpster. He and I drive off base and we find a deli that is open and we buy and I bring home and then we both consume for Thanksgiving a room temperature Cornish hen. So fast forward a couple weeks later, I come home for the first Christmas in like 2 or 3 years. And it's the big family party on grandma's side, my mom's side. So I'm sitting around the table, several of the aunts were there, and one of them says, so Shawn, what did you do for Thanksgiving? And I'm thinking, oh, this is hilarious. I'll tell you. So I start to tell her that story. And as I'm driving towards the punchline of me eating this Cornish hen, alone with one buddy, I notice one of my aunts has like this tear like welling up in her eye. And then it like breaks loose and it streams down her cheek. And she's like, well, that's about one of the saddest stories I've ever heard. I'm like really confused. Like I don't understand. Like I think this is comedy and this is like to her tragedy.
She's like, this is terrible.
Well, but it's because at whatever age I was, like 19, she is hearing a story from, the 3-year-old or 2-year-old whose diapers she used to change, basically saying, and I was all alone on Thanksgiving and I tried to cook a turkey but couldn't do it, So, the idea that when we approach these vacations and holidays, what I have learned is to try to be a little more empathetic and understand what it means to everybody involved, right? So like our vacation cannot be some epic odyssey where we're going to hit all of these targets and timelines. You want to have fun, right? Like, or what's fun to you, it may not be fun to me. And I will openly admit, though my heart was, I think, always in the right place, oh boy, I got that wrong on more than a few occasions.
Oh man. Yeah, there was definitely some boring trips, boring vacations, but
I thought they were great.
But that's okay. Okay, so let's talk about some, we're talking about vacations. I wouldn't class this as maybe a vacation, but this was a good story back from when I was in high school.
Oh, hold on. Let me take my acid reflux medicine. Like, if it's a story about you from high school, like I'm already getting like heartburn. So.
Yeah, this is good.
Continue.
Yeah, you'll know. So we had the lake house at Patoka Lake. Well, I say lake
your
house.
Your mother and I had a lake house at Patoka Lake.
Okay, you and Mom had and it was like, not like, it was at Wild Ridge. So it was nice, cute little lake community. Yeah. And I remember, and I'm going to try to really tighten this story. There was going to be a huge party that weekend. You all wanted to go to the lake. I lied and I said I had to work at Arby's.
Shocking.
And that I had to go to work. I couldn't miss. So I planned it out. I had my friend's older sister, or she was my friend and she was just older. We had her call you and say that she was so-and-so's mom and that I was spending the night there and that all was well. She would send me to work in the morning and then I would come to the lake whenever we got done.
Yeah.
So, obviously, whatever, wasn't the mom. Me and Kirsty, my best friend in high school, we were getting ready to go to the party. Well, by the time we get out the door and we're on the way.
You may want to slow down on name dropping some of these people.
I know. Hey, no, look, Kirsty's the one who got me caught. Kirsty's.
Wow, you're just going to double down on
I'm
people under the bus.
I'm doubling down on her because she's the one who got me caught. We were heading to go to the party, and as we're on the way to the party, we're almost there. Cops, opposite direction. So, like, we're like, oh, this is, okay, the party's busted. Yeah. So, phone starts ringing.
So
like
the good guys were winning.
Yeah, so the cops came, the party's busted. What are all these people going to do? If my kids ever do this, I will die right then and there. I said, you know what? My parents are out of town, so everyone just come on to my house. And not everybody not only come, everybody that's coming Go ahead and invite other friends.
Your plus 12s.
Yep. And so I remember, and we were 16 or something, so it wasn't like super late. I even went as far as going to the neighbors and saying, hey, my dad wanted me to come over here to let you know.
Gosh.
They wanted me to let you know that there's going to be
there's
going to be a bunch of cars
You're
on the
just pushing
street.
all your chips into the middle of the table on this one.
I was all in. I was all in.
Oh my God.
So I, let them know, like, because that's something you would have done if I really was having like a get together. Like, well, you need to let all the neighbors know, like, there's going to be cars on the street. Okay. So I did, and they thought you were home and that you were just letting me have some rager. So finally.
Oh, yeah, because that sounds like on brand, as the kids would say for me. Yeah.
So finally, the party's happening. Chaos is breaking loose, okay? And now I'm like stressed, and I'm like, okay.
Good.
Everyone has to get out.
Yeah.
I mean, there was way too many people there. So now I'm like, all right, everyone has to leave. Everyone has to leave. Well, there was
quickly, so of course, I know how this story ends, right? So I'll quickly interject because you said, oh no, chaos, stressed.
Yes.
I know I had always told you, because I had thrown a party once before when my mom and dad were out of town. And I remember how miserable I felt.
Oh, terrible.
Just horrified, like, oh my gosh, so nervous. And I remember always telling us that you mark my words, if you ever do this, I guarantee you will regret it.
I feel
and
so
you
bad.
will want people out of that house. And so, this was a classic case of it was just
too
easy. Like, man, this was one you could see coming from a mile out. So, all right.
So
continue.
A couple of the guys got mad. I think I had told a lot of people, like, yeah, you can just sleep. You can pass out here. You can pass out here. But then I was like, no, everyone's got to go. So these two boys, I will not name drop, but they know who they are. They left, and they were so upset that one of them took a Heineken bottle and chucked it at the 10-foot arched
big
double
plate
pane
glass, double pane
window on top of the door. Mm-hmm. As soon as it hit,
shattered it.
Yep, all the way up. Now I'm really panicking. So everyone's gone. A couple of the girls that were close friends of mine, of course, like they were staying the night. Yeah. They were helping clean up. And I'm panicking. I called Jessica, your sister.
My sister, yeah.
And I'm like, oh, I effed up. What she had done is had one of the handymen that worked for the family come over and basically scrape out that entire first pane.
Take one pane. Yeah, the cracked one out.
Then she ordered a new window, but it wasn't going to be delivered for maybe 3 weeks or something. Mm-hmm. So fast forward, I'm at home one day, you're at work, and Mom randomly just goes, where's the window? And I'm thinking, this is a couple weeks in. I'm thinking, what are you talking about? So I'm spiraling. So I'm calling Jessica. She's not answering me. I'm calling her. Bless Mom's heart. She was like, maybe there was a storm. And I've never in my life wished that maybe you all were divorced and this was this. No, but you know what I mean though. I almost wish this was Mom's house and you had no because I totally would have just been like, oh yeah, the storm, something must have blew the window away. So Jessica gets on the phone with her, and Jessica's like, oh, Shinko, please don't be mad. When you all were at the lake, I came by to stop by and pick something up, and I was on the phone on the front porch, and I was throwing a baseball up, and it cracked the window.
Oh, my gosh.
So I had Gary came over and took it out. So fast forward even further. Mom's like, okay, I won't say anything. Jessica's like, please, he's going to be so upset with me. I have a new window getting delivered. You had to go out of town for pilot. I don't know. You were training pilots or something. You go out of town. We schedule the window to be delivered while you're gone. So the new window now is in. Okay. The new window's in. We're going to leave one day. And for some reason, I was driving separate from you. So you're pulling out of the driveway and I'm in front of you. And you stop. You get out of the car and you walk over to the window and you're looking. And I'm like, what is happening? Why are you over there looking at this window? And finally, because when they installed the window, they had to pull the truck in the yard. So there was truck prints.
Left ruts in the yard.
And you were like, who pulled in the yard? And I'm like, oh, that's weird. I don't know. I have no idea. Fast forward, I think Grandpa said he pulled in the.
My gosh.
I think he pulled it. So finally, we're a year later. Okay, a year later, we're at a basketball game maybe, and you asked me, you're like, have you ever thrown a party at the house? But by this point, like I was 18. So I'm like, what are you going to do, ground me? So I told you. I was like, yeah, I did. Because you had seen on Twitter where Kirsty, you saw where she posted on Twitter, Throwback Thursday, who remembers the wild party at Cassandra's? And it was a picture of the cracked window.
Yeah, well, it's
So what a fun time.
yeah,
How fun.
it's great. So the moral of the story is, no matter to what lengths one goes, regardless of how many people you get involved in some vast conspiracy, the only way that two people can keep a secret is if one of them dies. So
Yeah,
so
because
and I remember when I was a kid and Star Wars came out. I remember that there was a scene when Obi-Wan Kenobi was like showing Luke Skywalker how to use a lightsaber on the Millennium Falcon. And then on the other side of the galaxy, Darth Vader like used the Death Star to blow up a planet. And then flashback to the Millennium Falcon, Obi-Wan Kenobi's like, I just feel a horrible disturbance in the Force. And I remember as a kid thinking like, oh, that'd be so awesome to have like Jedi powers. I think
you kind of
as
do
a parent, I kind of think you get them. Like, so like I remember just sitting there thinking like, oh, there's a disturbance in the forest. Like, I feel like Cassandra has done something horrible, like and you can't always like pinpoint it, but you're like, I know
something is off.
I can't exactly, I couldn't prove this case in court, but we'll play a game called Paper Rock Dad, and I'm just going to go ahead and adjudicate you guilty because I know that there's something off here. I know there's something wrong. All right. Well, thank you for taking me down that
You're welcome.
Wonderful, memory lane.
So good.
But bringing it back out, let's say about let's say holidays, right?
Okay.
Holidays, right? So again, my approach sometimes was trying really hard to create these Norman Rockwell experiences. And I remember on one particular occasion, you had been wanting a hamster for Christmas.
Okay.
For whatever reason, like you really got it in your mind.
Okay. I remember this.
Cute
This is when we lived
fluffy,
in Palmyra.
Yeah.
Okay.
Cute, fluffy little hamster. And I kind of have a bad habit sometimes of procrastinating. And so by the time I get to the pet shop on, probably 9 p.m. on December 23rd, they're like, oh, we don't have any hamsters. But like, well, we have these lab mice that we feed to the snakes. So do you remember like
it was white. It looked like it was white with bright red eyes.
Yeah.
It was terrifying. It bit and it would bite me.
The red eyes, I mean, they look like little LED lights.
Yes.
I mean, they were like
scary.
And this thing was hostile. It was like, I don't think it had rabies, but if it didn't, it was at least a carrier because man, the thing was super aggressive.
Yeah.
And so,
I remember I cried one time because I knew Mom was home alone and I was like, what if it hurts her?
Yeah. I eventually rid the family of that mouse. All right. Okay. But now on the flip side, I did put in some work to make some of our Christmases memorable. When I was probably about 22, at the time I maybe weighed like 168 pounds. My mother, grandma's a real estate agent, and she was hosting an open house sometime middle of December. She had hired a Santa to come and, be there to draw people in. Well, Santa calls her at, 11 o'clock, that morning. Is like, I've got the flu. I can't be there for your open house at 2. So grandma, always very resourceful, very industrious. She scrambles. She calls like the developer and says, hey, there's no Santa. If I go buy a Santa outfit somewhere and get somebody to play it, will you reimburse me and let me keep the Santa outfit? So she's like, line of sight, Shawn, I need you to be Santa Claus, right? So I'm Santa Claus. I'm stuffed full of pillows like the Michelin Man underneath that outfit. But I got to keep that Santa outfit. Yeah. So then for the to this day, I'm thinking the little kids are listening.
Yeah, little kids, cover your ears.
I wear that Santa outfit like for every Christmas party, for every big, Christmas get together. And then I remember I would even do things like I would have Mom, like right after you all would go to sleep on Christmas Eve, like within 10 minutes. I didn't want to disrupt your sleep. I'd hurry up, put the outfit back on, and I would be like in the living room putting toys like under the
I
tree,
remember.
and then mom would like bring you out when you're like 2, 3, 4 years old, like, oh,
You're like,
shh,
"Shh,"
quiet,
yeah.
Santa's here, like, oh, look, he's gonna eat the cookies.
I have like pieces of memories
Yeah.
of this. Yeah.
So then you get to the age where kids on the bus or on the playground are like,
Santa's not real.
Santa's not real, and then you're like, BS, like I have seen him
In my house.
house,
Okay.
right?
Yeah.
Right. So I probably squeezed out an extra year or two because I would always, role play it and get into character. But eventually, I think you told me that
I remember thinking that you were Santa, but no one would tell me,
Oh, yeah.
obviously. And so I was spending the night at grandma's one night, and I was like, I'm just going to try it. So I told grandma, I said, Grandma, I don't like that you all have been lying to me my whole life about, the Easter Bunny and Santa Claus and the Tooth Fairy. And I just don't like that. And she must have been distracted because, boy, she broke down and she was like, well, Cassandra, listen, we do that because, and I said, I knew it. And I started crying and I was like, I knew it. I knew that was Dad playing Santa this whole time. So, I mean, I totally just did a little reverse psychology.
You got to be careful, you don't
But
ask questions that you don't want the answer
Well,
to.
and I think, too, that goes to show, like, kids are a lot smarter than you think. Like, I was young when I did that to her. So it's like I think sometimes as adults, we almost forget, like, oh, it's fine. It's fine.
Yeah.
But no, like, they know.
Well, and then you could also be, all kids can be somewhat like situationally oblivious. It's like,
Sure.
I no longer believe in the Tooth Fairy, but I still expect $1 to be under my pillow the following
I want the
day,
money.
right? So you're like, Dad, like, you don't ever say things to me that are untrue, do you? I'm like, oh, no, sweetheart. No,
Never.
Go to bed so your mom and I can wrestle. Like
Ew.
No, I would never lie to you.
Oh, man.
All right. Well, with all of that being said, I mentioned it earlier. When we approach these vacations and holidays as adults, like you now take your kids on vacation, you are the one responsible for creating the ambiance of the holiday du jour. I know that there was more than a few occasions where I approached it like a task.
Mm-hmm.
And I know would lose sight of, okay, the overarching reason for all of this is for some fellowship, bonding, and to make some great memories.
Yeah, some enjoyment.
It's not an itemized list of activities that I gotta like scratch off. And I'm glad I figured it out. I would have loved to have known that from the jump, but I'm glad that I figured it out while you all were still kids, right? So that it wasn't always approached, like a job, But at the same time, when we are the ones, like as the parents, responsible for putting everything in motion, it becomes a bit easy. Like, why aren't they so happy and excited about this?
Yeah.
Like, why don't they want to play these games and
do all the things?
They're kids.
Right.
They want to have fun. They want to have fun their own way.
Their own way, exactly. I think that's the important part is we all want to go to have fun, but everyone has their individual idea of what that is.
Yeah.
So, well, good. All right. Well, I think we'll wrap this episode up, and we hope that you all enjoyed it, and we will be seeing you guys next week. So, everyone have a good week.
Take care. We hope that you enjoyed today's episode.
Yes, please make sure to like, follow, and subscribe.
See you next time.